Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Aurovilians. Today we have part 2 with Anandi Zhang. And I thank you for all your comments of appreciation for the first interview with Anandi. So, welcome.
Namaste.
Namaste. Can you tell me a bit more about your life in China and about China itself? Because people are very interested in knowing this.
What aspects?
What aspect?
Yeah.
Cultural, physical, the land, the people, organization, political if you wish, or whatever you like.
Maybe a little bit about my life,
Good.
which I already shared with you in our last interview, that I was born and grew up on a farm in southwest China. It was an experience of great abundance. In my family, in the 80s, 90s, there was a lot of poverty, I would say. Our family had some difficulty sending me to school, even. It was the same condition for many people at that time. We could have much abundance in terms of what we grow and can sustain ourselves, but financially it was coming out of a series of historical events which the world may know to some extent, and our generation is the generation that just came out after that, and still with the collective memory. So
you said it was a time of abundance, but then you said it wasn't abundant for you.
you see, even in our culture, this notion of yin and yang, of the interplay of yin and yang,
Yes.
harmonization of the yin and yang energies of the opposites in the relative world has always existed. When I spoke of the abundance, it is the lived abundance, experienced abundance, observed abundance in nature, in our living environment, where we had kind of everything that we could depend on, could grow to sustain ourselves. Financially, it's another matter. And even materially, in terms of food, in terms of shelter, the basic living conditions, a lot of people still had to struggle. We used to have flood, drought, all these kind of extreme weather conditions which many people suffered. And so later on, there was a opening up policy. The whole country opened up. So many people went to big cities to make a living, and there was a lot of migration within the big changes happening, affecting basically every family. And so I was born and grew up in this era of great social transformations. But I would say I spent a lot of my time in schools. So in a way I was in it, but indirectly affected.
And now, your experience of China now, whatever you could share with us.
China is refining its true wisdom, its true strength.
Oh, how wonderful.
As if Mother and Sri Aurobindo talked about the individual psychic being, the group soul. Soul not in the common sense, but really the divine sparkle of a group of people, like in Auroville, in the ashram, and in a nation. And each nation has that, not the common sense national egoism, but the true soul. And I believe this whole world is going through that. The exaggerated manifestations of all the outward being of the nations, including China, and a rediscovery of the essence, its true essence.
You had mentioned to me, but we hadn't recorded it last time, that Sri Aurobindo was being taught in some universities. Could you expand on that?
Yeah. So we talked about Husu, staying in the ashram, translating most of Mother and Sri Aurobindo's major works into Chinese, the traditional Chinese. And now in China, most people speak and write and read a simplified Chinese. And but still there is a coming back to the traditional classical culture, so more and more people are using traditional Chinese now. Even I also like to read in traditional Chinese. So after that, in recent years, there have been a small group of people, a growing number of people who have kind of recognized the value of his translations, and thus through his translations or other ways of their personal growth, that they have come in contact with Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. So some people, the intellectuals and seekers, individual seekers, they have dedicated their lives in a way to a kind of very serious study and embodying what was taught by Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. There have been people who choose to study research on Sri Aurobindo and Mother's works for their master's and maybe doctor's degrees. There have been publications of Husu's biography and a collection of Husu's works, including his translations, a whole collection with many volumes now available. So there have, and we have groups of people who really study Mother and Sri Aurobindo as part of their personal sadhana, and then there are some exchanges, getting together to share and to see how they can also bring that more to people who are interested.
What universities are teaching Sri Aurobindo? Do you know any?
I wouldn't, I don't know about details, but it may be at present not an open course where you can apply to study, but individuals who have chosen to study and research on them.
They can do that.
Yeah, they can do that. Some people have the notion that China is restricting people's freedom or rights. I don't know, perhaps on certain levels, in certain things, yes. But in many, many ways, culturally, economically, and academically, in tourism, in many, many aspects, China is so flexible, open, and wide and wise.
Oh, this is wonderful to hear. Really wonderful to hear.
And last time I shared about the different facets, different stratas of a being, of a person, of a nation. Same with China. Depending on what your focus is.
I see. Were your parents ever interested in spiritual life?
They I think they are the first teachers for me. In a way, now they have both passed away. There's something in them, in my grandma, my parents, even somehow the life events that have unfolded, which initially I thought were traumatic, suffering, misery, a lot of questioning, which have eventually led me to Auroville. I see now this as a real process of transformation, and I'm really grateful for them.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
Sisters, yes. Yes, I do. We live different lives, have different values, lifestyles. We connect at a level which we both now feel comfortable with.
Wonderful. And in Auroville, you had mentioned last time some of the things you were doing, but I don't think you talked about Savitri Bhavan and your work with seeds. Could you share that with us? Because that's how I first met you.
Yeah.
Was at Savitri Bhavan.
Savitri Bhavan, yes.
And you showed me that you were distributing cuttings of Sri Aurobindo's Compassion.
Yes. Oh, such a wonderful memory. So I would like to add my first connection with Savitri Bhavan itself. In 2015, I was a guest staying in Auroville for 1 month. Then one day I went to Savitri Bhavan to attend Shadavan's class. After the Savitri reading, we came out and I asked as a guest, I need to go back home and how can I continue the study? And I got an amazing answer that, physically it's good to be here to join the reading, but if you have that in you, you can be anywhere in the world, and the Savitri reading can go on inside. I don't remember the exact words, but that was...
Was it Shadavan who told you that?
I think so. I think so. It's her. That was very sweet. And of course, anybody can say those words, but it was expressed in such a sweet, calm, and connected way that I felt there was a presence in that. I felt it was not the words that were spoken to me, but the real consciousness there. Although I have chosen to come and stay in Auroville, I felt that spirit is what I would like to carry on and keep. Auroville being the space of concentrated work, inner and outer work, but also anybody with a connection to that consciousness can access it anywhere in the world. And for me, this is a freedom also.
So you were going to tell me more about your work at Savitri Bhavan.
My work...
Your seeds.
Actually, I have always loved plants, soil, earth. And so last year, I was... going around Auroville after having worked in Botanic Gardens for some time, and then seeing all these beautiful blossoms of protection, the bougainvilleas, and I started to do cuttings of them. And then later on, of course, from one color to several colors, and I found there are more than 12 different colors of bougainvilleas in Auroville around, but no place actually has all of them, all the colors together. And it was just an aspiration to do a kind of a collection of them. And so it went on, and then I discovered, oh, there are other blossoms, other trees, other seeds, other plants. So it went on, and in a place where I lived last year, it quickly grew to over 300 seedlings and cuttings, and I felt, oh, how can I gift out all of them? There is such great spontaneous joy in doing all this. Nobody told me that I have to do so, but I think it was divine experience. No planning. I just know this has to be done, and there's the full energy and the full time to do it. So I felt like time was stretched. And then later on, it felt to me that was no longer a personal interest, personal hobby. It leads to have another space. And then this space came up, Prasad, and we were getting together. And then we moved the plants to Savitri Nursery. To Savitri Bhavan behind, there is a garden which we now call the Savitri Nursery, where they welcomed us, and now there is a bamboo shed for the plants. We are growing plumeris, not only from cuttings, but mostly from seeds. And protection, immortality, and a lot of plants, progress. So one plant that we grow really, we have dedicated to growing is the supramental action.
Yes. And you discovered how to germinate the seeds.
It just came. I believe I did nothing special in this process. Many people maybe have tried to grow them, and some have succeeded. Now we have grown, I think, a few dozens of them. And several are planted in different places in Auroville already. So this supramental action tree is the only tall tree in the consciousness garden in Matrimandir. And somehow I was given the seed by a friend. And I started to grow them, trying different methods. One is to soak the seed in water after peeling out the outer shell, the skin. Soak it in water for some time, and then the roots start to come, and then put it in a nursery bag. The other is, of course, you put directly in the soil mixed with compost, and then water it regularly. What the greatest success I tried up to now is using a big bucket with fully fresh cow dung, and just put the seed inside after peeling the outer skin. And for 1 month or more, I didn't have to water it, because the fresh cow dung had the fiber structure and the moisture inside, and giving enough also nutrition. And that seed grew up, two stems sprouted, and it's double stem, that seed.
Wonderful. Well, there's a lot of work to do in recovering many of the significances that have been lost.
And the supramental action, Mother says, it's an action that's not exclusive but total.
Yes. We have to bring back the hibiscus that she named from the Matrimanya nursery that have been lost. And she gave them 2 names. She gave them Beauty of Auroville, Charm of Auroville, And then one day she said to Tara that we need to have a wider name, and so she named them also Beauty of the New Creation, Charm of the New Creation. I want to get those back, and I hope you'll grow them.
Yeah.